live broadcasts, programs were often re-performed wholly in order to act as a repeat. One such occurrence for 1980.
Live television wasn't safe. It was chaos wrapped in a countdown clock. Armchair Theatre didn't just push boundaries, it shattered them in real time. Actors collapsed on air, directors screamed through cameras, and one night, a performer died mid-scene while millions watched at home. These are 20 weird facts about Armchair Theatre. And buried in the madness, a show that proved television could be dangerous, raw, and absolutely unforgettable. Lights up, cameras rolling, no second chances. Number 1. Before Armchair Theatre launched in 1956, British television drama was polite, stiff, safe. The BBC dominated with classical adaptations and drawing room plays where everyone spoke like they'd swallowed a dictionary. Enter ABC Television and producer Dennis Vance with a radical idea: make television drama feel dangerous. Not safe adaptations of stage plays, but original scripts written specifically for the screen. Stories about real people, real struggles, kitchen sink drama before anyone called it that. The network executives were nervous. They worried audiences wouldn't accept gritty realism on Sunday nights. They wanted prestige, not controversy. But Vance pushed back. He assembled a team of young, hungry writers and directors who didn't care about the old rules. He gave them creative freedom, minimal budgets, and one massive constraint: everything aired live. No safety net, no retakes, no editing room to save you. If an actor forgot a line, the nation saw it. If a camera broke down, millions watched the scramble. If someone died on set, well, that happened too. Armchair Theatre wasn't designed to comfort viewers in their living rooms. It was designed to shake them awake. And from the very first episode, broadcast on July 8, 1956, it became clear this wasn't just another television program. It was a revolution in black and white, unfolding in real time, with no one knowing what chaos would strike next. The name Armchair Theatre wasn't poetic. It was literal and slightly insulting. The concept was simple: bring theater-quality drama directly into people's homes so they could watch from their armchairs without leaving the house. But here's what made it different from everything else on television. These weren't filmed productions. They were live broadcasts, performed in real time, transmitted directly to viewers as they happened. Every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m., actors would gather in ABC's tiny Disbury studios in Manchester, or later at Teddington Studios in London. They'd rehearse for a week, blocking scenes, memorizing dialogue, coordinating with multiple cameras that would weave between sets. Then, when transmission began, it was pure theater with all its unpredictability amplified by the unforgiving eye of the camera. One mistake, one missed cue, one technical failure, and the whole thing could collapse in front of 7 million viewers. The directors loved it. The actors, some thrived on the adrenaline. Others lived in absolute terror, because unlike stage theater, where if you stumbled, you could improvise your way out, and the audience in row 12 might not notice, television captured everything in close-up: a bead of sweat, a trembling hand. The moment an actor's mind went blank, there was nowhere to hide, and the schedule was relentless. A brand new 90-minute play every single week. No repeats, no safety episodes in reserve. If the show failed, it failed publicly and permanently. That pressure created something extraordinary. Performances that felt immediate, alive, visceral, because everyone involved knew they were walking a tightrope without a net. Sidney Newman wasn't British. He was a Canadian who'd worked in documentary films with radical ideas about television drama. When ABC brought him in as head of drama in 1958, he saw Armchair Theatre wasting potential on safe, middle-class stories. He wanted working-class voices, controversy, to make the establishment uncomfortable. So he commissioned young firebrands like Harold Pinter, Alan Owen, and Clive Exton. Writers who understood drama didn't need lords and ladies. It needed factory workers, immigrants, struggling families dealing with abortion, racism, unemployment. The network panicked. Sponsors threatened to pull funding. But Newman had a phrase: drama is conflict. Under his leadership, Armchair Theatre transformed into something genuinely dangerous. Episodes tackle subjects the BBC wouldn't touch: regional accents, pubs, betting shops, abortion clinics, and audiences leaned in closer. Finally, television showed their actual lives. Newman created a cultural phenomenon by refusing to make anyone comfortable.
And realised that they were a collective force to be reckoned with. In this particular month,
Gareth Jones was 30 years old, a Welsh actor with a promising career ahead of him. On November 18, 1958, he was performing in a live Armchair Theatre production called Underground, a tense thriller about 4 people trapped in a London underground tunnel during a flood. The episode was unfolding perfectly. The cameras tracked through the cramped set. The dialogue crackled with tension. Jones played one of the trapped men, delivering his lines with controlled panic. And then, 25 minutes into the broadcast, he collapsed. The other actors thought it was part of the performance. The director, watching from the control room, thought Jones was improvising. But seconds ticked by, and Jones didn't move, didn't speak. The camera held on his face. The studio fell into confused silence. Then came the scramble. Someone rushed onto the set. The director screamed for cameras to cut away to another scene. The floor manager called for a doctor, but there was no stopping the broadcast. 7 million people were watching, and while the crew tried to save Gareth Jones's life, the show had to continue. They rearranged scenes on the fly, cut dialogue, had other actors improvise around the missing performer. The audience at home had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. They just knew something felt wrong. Gareth Jones died of a heart attack before the episode finished. The cast completed the broadcast in shock, many of them in tears once the cameras cut to black. ABC issued a statement the next day. The press covered it extensively, but the episode itself? It was never shown again. No recording existed. Live television meant everything happened once, then disappeared, including death itself, witnessed by millions and gone forever. Ted Kotcheff arrived at ABC London in 1957 and discovered a playground for chaos. Armchair Theatre gave him creative control with one deadline: Sunday 9:30 p.m., cameras live. While Kotcheff pushed the medium harder than anyone thought possible, rehearsing actors for 6 days straight until they could perform in their sleep. He pioneered multi-camera techniques, choreographing operators like dancers gliding between actors. But Kotcheff understood live television's gamble. You couldn't control everything. So he built contingency plans, taught performers to improvise. During one production, the actress's dress ripped completely off. The camera operator immediately tilted up to her face. The dress was repaired in 30 seconds. The audience never knew. Kotcheff later directed First Blood, but nothing matched the adrenaline terror of live television. At Armchair Theatre, there was only now. The scripts weren't written in advance. Well, technically they were, but barely. Writers had 2 weeks to deliver 90 pages of original drama. 2 weeks. Most film screenplays take months or years. But Armchair Theatre burned through material so fast that writers worked at a terrifying pace, often finishing pages the day before rehearsals began. And because television was still finding its language, these writers were inventing rules as they went. How do you write from multiple cameras? How do you handle transitions without editing? Some writers thrived. Alan Owen discovered naturalistic dialogue. Harold Pinter brought menacing pauses, realizing live television made silence unbearable because audiences couldn't look away. Others cracked under pressure. Scripts arrived incomplete. Directors rewrote entire sections during rehearsals. Actors adapted words on the fly. By Sunday, the script that aired often bore little resemblance to what was written. But that creative chaos produced something remarkable. The dialogue felt urgent, immediate, alive. The writing wasn't polished. It was sharp, dangerous, and real. The sets were masterpieces of impossible architecture. Because Armchair Theatre productions unfolded in real time, the designers had to create entire worlds within a single studio space. They couldn't stop for set changes. So they built elaborate multi-level environments where cameras could move seamlessly from a kitchen to a bedroom to a street corner without cutting. These weren't film sets. They were three-dimensional puzzles. Designers would sketch layouts where walls could be removed silently, where furniture could be repositioned in seconds between scenes, where actors could exit one location and immediately enter another that appeared miles away but was actually 3 feet to the left. The technical crew worked like stagehands in a theater, shifting set pieces in choreographed silence while cameras pointed elsewhere. But the scale was different. Some productions required 12 separate locations, all built within ABC's modest studio, a pub interior next to a factory floor, next to a hospital ward, next to a bedroom. And everything had to look real under harsh television lights that exposed every cheap material, every fake brick, every painted window. The budget for sets was minimal, so designers became experts in creative poverty. They'd steal furniture from secondhand shops. They'd paint cardboard to look like wood. They'd use mirrors to make tiny spaces seem endless. And occasionally, spectacularly, the sets would betray them. A wall would wobble when an actor leaned against it. A door would stick. A window would fall out of its frame mid-scene. Live television meant these failures happened in front of millions. But it also meant they became part of the story. Accidents transformed into authenticity. Because real walls wobble sometimes. Real doors stick. The imperfection made it feel more true.
And realised that they were a collective force to be reckoned with.
Performers didn't just act in armchair theatre. They survived it. Every Sunday meant 90 minutes of continuous performance with no retakes, no safety stops. Forgot a line? Improvise. Prop failed? Adapt. Actor missed their entrance? Cover for them. Tom Courtenay, Albert Finney, and Michael Caine cut their teeth here, learning to think on their feet, react truthfully, trust their instincts. But the pressure destroyed others. One well-known stage actor arrived completely prepared. Lines memorized, character understood. Then transmission began, and his mind went blank. For 3 excruciating minutes, he stood frozen, while millions watched. He never worked in television again. The actors who succeeded developed coping mechanisms, writing lines with their palms, rehearsing constantly, drinking just enough to calm nerves. But the really smart ones learned the secret wasn't memorization, it was listening. Trust the scene, and the words would come.
Live broadcasts, programs were often re-performed wholly in order to act as a repeat. One such occurrence for 1980.
The control room was barely controlled chaos. While actors performed below, technicians sat in a cramped booth surrounded by monitors, switches, and emergency plans that rarely worked. The director called shots in real time. The vision mixer cut between cameras. The sound engineer balanced dialogue and music. And everyone knew, if anything went wrong, there was no stopping the broadcast. ABC kept it deliberately minimal. Equipment was old, unreliable, prone to failure. Cameras lost focus mid-scene. Microphones cut out. During one production, the entire control room lost power. For 15 seconds, ABC transmitted black screen while engineers frantically rerouted electricity. The actors kept performing, trusting the show would resume. But the most incredible thing wasn't the technical limitations. It was the communication. Directors barked coded commands the crew decoded instantly. They worked as a single organism, and on good nights, when everything clicked, it felt like magic. Controlled chaos transforming into art.
It was a legendary piece of television that proved to be highly influential and popular. The success of this 6-part sci-fi series.
The audience knew what they were watching was dangerous. ABC didn't hide the live nature of the broadcasts. In fact, they promoted it. Anything could happen. Watch it unfold in real time. And viewers responded by making armchair theater appointment television. 7, 8, sometimes 9 million people tuned in every Sunday night, knowing they were witnessing something that would never exist again. No recordings, no repeats. If you missed it forever. This created a unique relationship between the show and its audience. People would gather in pubs to watch together, analyzing performances, arguing about the stories. Monday morning conversations at factories and offices revolved around what had happened the night before. Did you see when that actor forgot his line? Did you catch the camera operator in the mirror? What did you think about that ending? The mistakes became part of the experience. Viewers learned to spot technical errors, to appreciate the danger. When an actor stumbled over dialogue and recovered gracefully, audiences respected the skill. When a set piece fell over and performers incorporated it into the scene, viewers cheered the adaptability. Armchair theater created sophisticated television watchers who understood the medium's possibilities and limitations. They weren't passive consumers. They were witnesses to a high-wire act, invested in whether the performers would make it to the end. And this engagement made the show culturally vital in a way that's hard to imagine today. In an era of infinite content and endless rewatching, the idea of something beautiful and terrifying happening once, then disappearing forever, seems almost impossible. But that's exactly what armchair theater was, week after week, temporary art, performed live, consumed collectively, and gone. The censors hated armchair theater. Not because of explicit content, though there was plenty of that, but because live television made them powerless. The BBC had a 7-second delay system. If something inappropriate happened, they could cut the feed before it reached homes. ABC had no such luxury. Once transmission began, whatever happened went directly to millions of viewers. No filter, no safety switch. Sidney Newman exploited this brilliantly. He'd submit scripts to the censorship board that were relatively tame, get approval, then during rehearsals, actors would improvise dialogue that pushed boundaries further. By Sunday night, the actual broadcast often contained material the censors had never seen. And there was nothing they could do about it. Swear words slipped through. Political statements that were too radical for approval aired anyway. One production featured a speech about abortion that had been specifically cut from the approved script, but the actress delivered it live, word for word, and ABC couldn't stop her. The censorship board complained constantly, threatened sanctions, demanded transcripts of every broadcast. But how do you censor something that no longer exists? There were no recordings to review, no evidence except angry letters from viewers and the board's own notes. Newman would apologize, promise better oversight, then do it again the following week. Because he understood that live television's greatest power wasn't just immediacy, it was freedom, the ability to say things that couldn't be unsaid. The makeup department performed miracles under impossible conditions. Television lights in the 1950s were brutally hot, and the black and white cameras required heavy makeup to prevent actors from looking washed out or ghostly. But Armchair Theatre's continuous 90-minute broadcasts meant makeup couldn't be touched up. Whatever went on, an actor's face had to survive an hour and a half under blazing lights without melting, smudging, or betraying the illusion. The makeup artists developed their own formulas, mixing theater makeup with waterproof bases, testing different combinations under heat lamps to see what lasted. They'd apply multiple layers, knowing the top layer would sweat off, but the foundation beneath would hold. Actors complained about feeling like they were wearing masks, thick and uncomfortable, but it was necessary. The real challenge came with special effects, makeup. One production required an actor to age 50 years during the broadcast. The makeup team built prosthetics that could be applied in sections during brief off-camera moments, transforming the performer's face while the story continued around them. Another episode featured a fight scene that was supposed to leave visible bruising. They created breakaway blood capsules that actors could crush against their faces at the right moment, but the blood had to be the exact right shade to read properly on black and white cameras, dark enough to show, but not so dark it looked like mud. And occasionally, despite all the preparation, makeup would catastrophically fail. An actor's false beard would start peeling off mid-scene. Sweat would create visible streaks down someone's face. The makeup artists would watch from the wings in horror, knowing there was nothing they could do except hope the cameras didn't notice.
But with some alterations to the script and cast changes.
Dennis Potter wrote his first television play for Armchair Theatre in 1965, a production called Stand Up, Nigel Barton. It was about a working-class student at Oxford facing class prejudice, and it was semi-autobiographical. Potter had lived that exact experience, navigating between two worlds that both rejected him. The BBC had commissioned it first, then got cold feet. The script was too confrontational, too personal, too dangerous. They shelved it. A BC picked it up immediately, and Sidney Newman gave Potter complete creative freedom. The result was explosive. Potter's dialogue crackled with authentic rage and vulnerability. He wrote working-class characters who didn't apologize for their backgrounds, and middle-class characters who were casually cruel in their condescension. The production aired live with Potter watching from the control room, sick with nerves. When it finished, the response was immediate and divided. Critics either loved it or hated it with equal passion. Viewers wrote letters, some praising its honesty, others disgusted by its class warfare. But everyone was talking about it. And that's what Armchair Theatre had become under Newman's leadership, a platform for voices that weren't supposed to be heard, telling stories that weren't supposed to be told. Potter went on to become one of Britain's greatest television writers, creating Pennies from Heaven and The Singing Detective. But he always credited Armchair Theatre for teaching him that television could be dangerous, personal, and uncompromising, that it could wound and heal in the same 90 minutes. The camera operators were unsung artists. While directors got credit and actors got fame, camera operators created what millions saw. They had to be athletes, dancers, and technicians simultaneously. These weren't lightweight cameras. They were massive machines on wheeled pedestals, requiring physical strength to maneuver. During 90-minute broadcasts, operators constantly moved, tracking actors, pushing forward for close-ups, pulling back for wide shots, avoiding cables, other cameras, and unpredictable performers. They couldn't make noise. Microphones picked up any sound, so they moved in complete silence despite pushing hundreds of pounds. They had to anticipate what would happen next, reading actors' movements, predicting where directors wanted shots. The best developed almost telepathic connections with directors. They could frame perfect shots while running backwards, navigating cluttered sets in near darkness. When things went wrong, they solved problems instantly, reframe, find new angles, make it work. No one watching knew these invisible artists existed, but without them, there was no show. Number 15. Not every Armchair Theatre production was serious drama. In 1958, ABC broadcast The Big Eat, a dark comedy about gluttony that featured one of the most disgusting sequences ever aired on British television. The script called for the main character to consume an enormous meal over the course of the play, eating continuously while delivering dialogue. The actor, a committed method performer, insisted on using real food and actually eating everything on camera. The production team prepared a massive spread: roast chicken, potatoes, vegetables, puddings, cakes, wine. Over 90 minutes while the cameras rolled, the actor consumed all of it. By the halfway point, he was visibly struggling, his dialogue slowing, his movements becoming sluggish. By the final act, he looked genuinely ill, sweat pouring down his face, his skin turning an unhealthy shade under the makeup. The other actors became concerned. The director considered stopping, but the actor insisted on finishing. He delivered his final speech about the emptiness that consumption can never fill, while looking like he might vomit at any moment. When transmission ended, he collapsed and had to be taken to hospital for observation. The critical response was mixed. Some called it brilliant physical acting, a performer literally embodying his character's excess. Others found it grotesque and unwatchable, but everyone agreed they'd never seen anything like it. Because that's what live television allowed, performers pushing themselves to genuine physical extremes, not through camera tricks or editing, but through raw, undeniable reality. The actor recovered and continued his career, though he never ate on camera again. The musicians performed live in the studio, often just feet away from the actors. Unlike modern television where music is added in post-production, Armchair Theatre needed its musical scores played during the actual broadcast. This created surreal situations where dramatic scenes would unfold while a small orchestra sat in a corner of the set, playing their instruments live, trying not to make any noise except the music. The composers had to write scores that could be performed flawlessly in one take. No second chances, no fixing mistakes later. And the musicians had to watch the action unfold, adjusting their tempo to match the actors' performances, speeding up if a scene ran fast, slowing down if actors took longer than expected. They couldn't use sheet music lights because the cameras would pick up the glow, so they performed in near darkness, memorizing complex arrangements. During one thriller production, the score called for a dramatic crescendo at the moment when the villain was revealed, but the actor delivering the revelation stumbled over his lines, and the moment came 30 seconds later than planned. The conductor had to hold the orchestra in suspended tension, keeping them ready, then cueing the crescendo at the right dramatic instant, even though it wasn't where they'd rehearsed it. The musicians managed it perfectly, and viewers at home never knew anything had gone wrong. In another production, a violin string snapped during a quiet, emotional scene. The violinist had to continue playing on 3 strings, compensating instantly for the missing notes, while trying not to react physically in a way the cameras might catch. Live television meant even the background music was genuinely live, performed by artists who were just as much on the tightrope as everyone else. Number 17. ABC eventually started recording some Armchair Theatre productions in 1958, but not for posterity. The recordings were made on primitive videotape systems that were expensive, unreliable, and produce terrible quality. The tapes were never meant to be kept. They were just insurance, a way to rebroadcast an episode if something went catastrophically wrong during the live transmission. After the show aired successfully, the tapes were wiped and reused because videotape was so expensive. This means the vast majority of Armchair Theatre productions no longer exist. Hundreds of plays, featuring early performances by actors who would become famous, scripts by writers who would change British television, all gone. Erased to save money on tape. The BBC did the same thing, wiping thousands of hours of programming throughout the 1960s and 70s. But for Armchair Theatre, it's particularly tragic because these were one-time performances, live broadcasts that can never be recreated. When those tapes were erased, centuries of cumulative theatrical and television talent disappeared forever. Occasionally, a recording surfaces. Someone's grandfather turns out to have owned a primitive home recording device and captured an episode off-air. These discoveries are treasured by archivists, precious glimpses into a lost era. But most of Armchair Theatre exists only in memory now, in the recollections of people who watched it live, in old newspaper reviews, in the influence it had on everyone who experienced it. It's television as ghost, leaving traces but no body. And there's something fitting about that, for a show that was always about living in the moment, never looking back. The final live Armchair Theatre broadcast happened in 1968. After 12 years of continuous weekly productions, ABC made the decision to switch to recorded drama. The reasons were practical. Technology had improved, videotape was more affordable, and pre-recording meant better quality control. No more on-air disasters, no more impossible pressure on performers. But it also meant the death of something unique. The last live episode was a deliberately small, intimate production. Just two actors in a single room, talking. No elaborate sets, no complex camera moves, just pure performance. The actors, both veterans of dozens of live broadcasts, were emotional. They'd grown up in this format, learned their craft in this pressure cooker. When the final line was delivered and the credits rolled, the studio crew gave them a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Then it was over. Armchair Theatre continued for 6 more years as a recorded anthology series, still producing quality drama, still launching careers. But the danger was gone. The electricity was gone. Without the live element, it became just another television show, well made but no longer groundbreaking. Writers and directors who'd thrived on the live format found the recorded version constraining. Some moved to theater, where the live element remained. Others adapted, learning the new language of film television. But everyone agreed something had been lost. That specific alchemy of risk and talent, where anything could happen and usually did, where the medium itself was part of the performance, that could never be recreated. Live television drama would return occasionally over the decades, special events trying to recapture the magic. But it was never the same as those Sunday nights when millions gathered around their sets, knowing they were watching something fragile and fleeting and absolutely real. Sidney Newman left ABC in 1963 to become head of drama at the BBC, and he took the Armchair Theatre philosophy with him. The lessons he'd learned about pushing boundaries, about giving young writers freedom, about treating televisions as a serious artistic medium, all of that went into creating new BBC programs. Within a year, he'd launched Doctor Who and The Wednesday Play, 2 shows that would define British television for decades. But he always credited Armchair Theatre as his laboratory, the place where he learned what television could do. The replacement producers at ABC tried to maintain Newman's radical spirit, but it was difficult. The network executives, freed from Newman's forceful personality, started demanding safer content. Budgets were cut. The pool of adventurous writers dried up as the BBC, with Newman's backing, could offer better pay and more prestige. Armchair Theatre slowly became more conventional, still producing quality work, but no longer leading the revolution. By the time it was canceled in 1974, it had aired over 450 productions, launched dozens of careers, and fundamentally changed what British television drama could be. But its real legacy wasn't the episodes themselves, most of which no longer exist. It was the idea it proved that television could be immediate, dangerous, challenging, and important. That it didn't have to be film's poor cousin or theater's ugly stepchild. That it could be its own thing, with its own language, its own possibilities. Every ambitious television drama that followed, from The Sopranos to Breaking Bad, owes something to Armchair Theatre's willingness to take risks and its understanding that danger creates great art. The actors who survived Armchair Theatre's live broadcasts never forgot it. Decades later, when they'd become famous film stars or theater legends, they'd talk about those Sunday nights with a mixture of terror and nostalgia. They'd describe the specific adrenaline, different from stage fright or film anxiety, a heightened state where time moved differently and every sense sharpened to impossible clarity. Some said it ruined them for other work, that nothing else ever felt as real or as consequential. Others said it taught them everything, that those 90-minute tightrope walks made them fearless. Tom Courtenay recalled forgetting his lines during his first Armchair Theatre performance and having to improvise for what felt like hours, but was actually 30 seconds, learning in that moment that he could trust his instincts. Albert Finney described the unique terror of knowing millions were watching you right now, that there was no editor to save you, no second take, no tomorrow. Michael Caine, who appeared in several productions early in his career, said Armchair Theatre taught him the most important lesson any actor could learn, listening. That if you really listened to your scene partner, really stayed in the moment, the right response would come. And if it didn't, something even better might emerge. These weren't just performances preserved in amber, they were living moments shared between performers and audience, a communion that could never be replicated. When these actors won awards later in their careers, when critics praised their naturalistic performances and their ability to seem utterly present in the moment, the roots were there in those terrifying Sunday nights, cameras rolling, no net below. There's a conspiracy theory among television historians, probably not true, but it's beautiful if it is. The theory goes that somewhere in a private collection, someone has a complete archive of Armchair Theatre recordings. All the episodes everyone assumes were wiped, preserved by a rogue engineer who understood their value. According to the story, this engineer worked at ABC in the early 1960s and was horrified when he realized the network was erasing these broadcasts. So he secretly made duplicate copies, taking home one tape at a time, storing them in his basement, building a complete archive. When he died, the collection passed to his family, who don't understand what they have or are waiting for the right moment to reveal them. It's almost certainly fiction, a wish fulfillment fantasy for archivists who mourn the lost episodes. But occasionally, someone claims to have seen the collection or knows someone who knows someone. The story persists because people want to believe these performances weren't truly lost, that somewhere all the danger and brilliance in immediate alive television still exists, waiting to be rediscovered. And maybe it does. Or maybe the real magic of Armchair Theatre was always that it was temporary, that you had to be there, watching live, to experience it, that it existed in the moment and nowhere else.